So a while ago, I did a video on the darkest personality that you will ever meet, and I spoke about the dark empath. So if you want to go watch that video, you can click on the link above, and you can go watch that video if you haven't done so yet. But this is just a little follow-up on the darkest personality that you will ever meet, which is the dark empath. And today we're going to speak a bit about, and some of the people or somebody who watched the video asked this question, and I promised I will do a follow-up on it. And they asked about mirroring. What happens when you maybe grew up with a dark empath, or you have relationships with a dark empath, and you get this idea that you start to mirror the dark empath. How do you deal with that? And why is that important? Now, one thing about me is I love music. Since I was very small or very young, I really loved music, and I still do today. But one interesting thing about my music taste, I like music that's very original, and I don't like covers that much unless somebody does a cover that's like totally different than the original artist. But if the person who does the cover, I remember when I was younger, people will say to me, you must listen to this song, they do it exactly the same as the original artist. And I'm like, but I've listened to the original artist. I don't want to hear something that's exactly the same. I want to hear something new. I want to hear something different. I want to hear something unique. So I've heard some cover songs where people did it in such a unique way that it was mind-blowing for me, where they will take like a rock song and make it jazz or something like that. Now that's brilliant. Now why am I saying this? Because mirroring is just like that. Mirroring is like copying somebody else exactly. When I say a word, you say the same word. When I feel an emotion, you display the same emotion. When I do an action, you do the same action. That's mirroring. But sometimes we mirror and we don't even realize or recognize that we are doing it. Maybe, so let's say for instance, you listen to a song over and over and over again, and you get to know the song so well. You know exactly how to play it on the instrument. You know exactly how to sing it. You know exactly how to make the voice of the original artist, and you can sing the song exactly the same. That is mirroring. Now what happens a lot of times is, you grow up with a parent or a caretaker, or maybe you are married to somebody that displays these personalities, and then you start to mirror some of the actions that they do. And sometimes you don't even realize that you are doing it. This is why self-awareness is very important, to actually be aware that you are mirroring some of the traits of certain personalities. So just to give you a quick recap, what is the dark empath? Now, empathy, in general, I think it's a very good thing. Empathy, I know in general is a very good thing. That's when you can recognize and feel the emotions of another person. That's like putting yourself in that person's shoes, or putting yourself in that person's skin, and you can feel that person's emotions. And then you get the dark triad. Now, the dark empath is a combination between the dark triad and an empath. So the dark triad is the Machiavellian, which is the master manipulator, the psychopath that doesn't have feelings for another person, or they don't feel things like guilt or shame or empathy or anything. There's no feeling involved. And then you get the narcissist, where they are the center of attention. Now, a dark empath is a combination between the dark triad, meaning those dark personalities, and empathy, meaning they have the dark side, but they also have a strong empathy. Now, people might ask, but you just said the psychopath is somebody that doesn't feel. How can you say they have empathy? Now, remember, this is very important. The dark empath has a cognitive empathy. A cognitive empathy means they don't really feel it, but they know and understand the emotion. So they don't have an affective empathy. Affective empathy is where you feel it. An example of empathy is, say for instance, you have lost a loved one in your life, and now you meet somebody who has also lost a loved one. Because you know what that feels like, you can feel the emotion this person is feeling. That is empathy. But that is also now an affective empathy. Remember, these people have a cognitive empathy, meaning they understand your emotions and they use it against you. Then you get something called intuitive empathy. So empathy is something external. It's something that you feel from the outside that another person is feeling. Intuition is something that comes from the inside. It's that It's that voice that says something just feels right or something that feels wrong. So an intuitive empath can combine what's happening on the inside with what is happening on the outside. And I do believe this can also get developed over time, where you learn empathy, where you go through things and your intuition can just say to you, this is right, this is wrong, and you can feel. And also, intuitive empathy can also be a very good thing, unless you hurt yourself in the process, or unless you allow other people to hurt yourself to hurt you in the process. And remember, like I said, mirroring is just repeating what the other person is saying, doing what the other person is saying. So imagine now you grow up in an environment with a dark empath, and some of these traits you have learned. And because you've seen them over and over, because you've experienced them over and over, and now you start to do them, that is mirroring the dark empath, but you're not always aware that this is not good for you. You're not always aware that this can hurt you and this can hurt other people. So what is mirroring a dark empath? It's adopting manipulative and abusive tactics that would have negative consequences for the other individual. Like I said, because you sometimes grow up in these environments, it is something that you have learned. And it's important to have self-awareness, to know that it's there, to know that it's wrong, in order to be able to deal with it. So now I'm going to give you 6 defense mechanisms that people might have learned in mirroring a dark empath, or you maybe can learn them in the future. So the reason I'm giving you these 6 things is, number one, so that you can identify, are there some of those things in me that I have learned? Are there some of those traits in other people that I need to distance myself from? Or should I be aware that I don't learn or don't mirror these 6 traits? Defense mechanism number 1, denial. What if you live in a neighborhood that's not very safe, and most people in that neighborhood have alarms, they have maybe walls or gates for protection, and you're just like, I don't need an alarm, I don't need a gate, I don't need a wall, I don't need a protection. This is not that dangerous, this is actually very safe. That is what denial is. It's just like, this is not a problem, this is not going to affect me. And a lot of times, because it's a caretaker, a parent, somebody you love, that are dark empaths, people are very tend to go into denial, like no man, this person is not doing this, it's not dangerous for me to learn these mechanisms, or it's not dangerous for me to learn these traits. That is denial. It's almost like as if it's not a problem. And this is also why self-awareness is so important, because if you're not aware of it, you will not deal with it. Defense mechanism number 2, projection. Now, imagine somebody actually now breaks into your house because you said it's very safe, and now all of a sudden you go off on everybody else around you, and you say to the people, it's not safe. Why don't you guys just take note that it's not safe? So it's something that you believe that you're now projecting on other people. So again, you don't get to that place where you want to deal with something. You don't get to that place where you see the red flag in yourself, but you start to blame other people for this red flag. So people who project, they don't own up to their feelings, but they do project them on others. Defense mechanism number 3, acting out. These people are impulsive and reckless. So they act out with impulsivity and recklessness. So imagine that person whose house just got broken into, they take a baseball bat, or they take a golf club, or they take a gun, and they just start to hit and scream at everybody that's standing outside of their house. Now they are acting out with impulsivity. Instead of just saying, okay, listen, I need to put in an alarm, I need to put on a fence or a gate or something, they just run out, and they want to hit, and they want to scream, and they want to hurt any person that's around them. It's impulsive, it's immediately, it's acting out, it's reckless, it can get them in a lot of trouble. So what happens in this case a lot of times is the limbic system, which is the emotional brain, overrides the neocortex, which is the rational brain. So people don't think rationally anymore. The emotions are taking over, and they just act on emotions. Now, a lot of people that get themselves in trouble, many people that even end up in jail, are people that don't know how to balance the neocortex and the limbic system, meaning if the emotion come, they just act on the emotion. So also, this is something that we can see. Do I sometimes get to a place where I'm overly emotional and I just act irresponsible, reckless, and impulsive on the emotion? Number 4, displacement. And it connects to number 3 that I just said. Displacement is where you take your anger out on people that had nothing to do with it. So say for instance, again, somebody broke into your house. Now there are people just walking by in front of your house. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not trying to come in. It's like normal, great people. And now you are yelling at them and you are screaming at them and you are saying, listen, get off my lawn or get away from my house, you thieves. Now you are blaming people and you are taking it out on people that had nothing to do with it. Now, a lot of times, especially when you're a victim of a dark empath, because sometimes when people are victims of Machiavellians, psychopaths, narcissists, people are really afraid of these people, and because these people hurt them, they get angry. But they're afraid to take the anger out on the person that hurt them. They now displace their anger and they start to take it out on people that didn't hurt them, people that didn't have anything to do with it. So yeah, it's that place, and there you can really hurt good relationships. Now, defense mechanisms are there because they want to keep bad things from coming in. But if you don't manage your defense mechanisms right, it can also prevent good things from coming in. So now these people start to hurt people that are actually very, very good to them. Defense mechanism number 5, regression. I'm going to use a different example for number 5, regression. So this is when you go back to how you would have acted as a child. So that means there's one specific thing that you haven't dealt with yet. It's something that happened when you were a child. So say for instance, as a child, you loved chocolates. And every single time when you wanted the chocolate and your parents said no, you threw a tantrum, you got the chocolate. And now you are older, you want a sweet, and you get to this, say for instance, you get to the store and you want to buy a chocolate, and now the store says, listen, sorry, you cannot come in, we are closed. And now as an adult, you kind of throw a tantrum, you act on your emotions because that worked when you were a child. And maybe you don't act this way in other areas or other scenarios, but because you learned this as a child and you never came to a place where you've dealt with it, there are certain areas you are dealing with it in a way that as if you were a child. That's why they call it childish. You are kind of like acting like a child in this scenario, and it's not going to stop unless you deal with it. Defense mechanism number 6, and this is the last one I'm going to give to you. Before I get there, I want to ask you guys to subscribe, to like this video, leave a comment, tell us what you thought about the video, tell us if you want to do teachings on certain things, and if we can do that. And also I want to tell you the exciting news about our booklet, the Emotional Intelligence Effect, on how to improve collaboration, communication, and excellence in the workplace. If you want to know more about this booklet, and it's not just for people in the workplace. We normally focus on the workplace, but anybody who wants this information can contact us. Our email address will be on the screen if you want to speak to me about that, or you can go visit our website at www.mindprosperity.co.za. Defense mechanism number 6, suppression. Suppression is where you suppress your feelings, your thoughts, and your emotions because you are so afraid to let them out. Now, you cannot deal with anything if you don't admit it. So people who suppress, it's like I normally use this example of a balloon. If you keep on blowing on the balloon, and you don't let the air out, eventually that balloon is going to burst. And this is what suppression does, is you suppress until it becomes too much, and then there's like an overflow of emotions, and again, it can hurt a lot of people around you. And how do you deal with that? For me, it's very important that you go see somebody, that you go speak to somebody, that you go speak to a professional to say, listen, these emotions, these thoughts are being bubbled up on the inside of me, and I need to deal with some things. So don't ever be afraid to get to that place where you say, listen, I need to speak to somebody, I need to seek professional help, because we see more and more that these traits are, I'm not necessarily saying they are rising up now more than ever, but we are aware of them now more than ever. And this is why it's important to make sure you get the necessary tools and you get the necessary help you need. So we hope this video helped you, and if there are any other questions, you are welcome to email us. From Mind Prosperity, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon again. Goodbye.